Hello and welcome to the Play to Learn site. We're looking at SPS now for descriptive statistics, nominal and ordinal data. We'll go ahead and scroll down to the game itself. You could click Start here, but instead we'll scroll down just a little further and open the game in full screen mode. This is a screenshot-based interactive tutorial, so you won't be using the actual SPSS, but we'll be going through screenshots as if using the application. And that's a good way to get familiar with the software. And then eventually you'll want to use the actual software. Our learning objectives: increased familiarity and confidence with SPSS, the ability to create tables and bar graphs, to be able to specify statistics used for an APA style write-up, and finally an awareness of APA style for descriptive reports. SPSS is a registered trademark. The screen images are copyright by SPSS. This tutorial is not sponsored by SPSS. And this is the report that we're going to learn to create as a result of this tutorial. So we're going to focus on two different nominal variables. One is student sex and the other is political party. And we'll also be looking at an ordinal variable, and that one is going to be importance of faith and own life. In terms of student sex and political party, we have a table here for each of the variables. In an APA style write-up, you would typically have either a table or a graph, but not both of them. So in this case, we're going with the tables. For the importance of faith and own life for this ordinal variable, a graph has been provided, but again, you could go either way. Depends upon what you're looking for. Graph is really good for like kind of big picture, and the table is much better for precision. Finally, we're looking at an SPSS table here that gives you a general overview of the three different variables. And this tutorial is going to consist of 4 steps. In the first part, we're going to explore our data set. Next, we'll analyze the data. Third, we'll review the SPS output. And fourth, it'll be a demonstration of writing up the results APA style. Okay, so step 1, explore the data set. We'll review the data and we'll check the variable definitions. So you can either continue in tutorial mode, which if this is your first time, totally recommend that. Or once you complete in tutorial mode, you can at any time click game to start it up in game mode. When you go into game mode, it'll let you know how many hints are remaining. So in this case, there's 4. And after you go through all 4 of those hints thereabout, it'll then drop you back into tutorial mode, in which case you'd have to start over from the beginning back in game mode. And this is just a way to help you to practice, get really comfortable with it, not only just knowing it in terms of the concepts, but the different steps to complete this activity. All right, so it says continue. Let's do that. So first, we're invited to switch to value labels. Right now, we're looking at the data in number form. So student sex, today we probably recorded as student's gender, if that's how the survey question asked it. We have relationship status. These are all numbers. Let's see what they actually mean. So we can go to the view drop-down menu, and from there, go ahead and click on the option value labels. Now the results are much more understandable and easy to read. Next, when you're looking at a new data set, it's helpful to see, well, how many participants are there in this data set? So you would scroll down to kind of get an idea of that. And we see that there's 90 respondents. Then it's good to take a look after you kind of viewed through the data, take a look at the variables and see how they're defined. There is a variable view tab that would typically be at the bottom left. So we would click on that to head over and see the variables. We have several variables here that are part of this data set. If we would scroll to the right using the scroll bar, we can see further how they're defined. One of these variables, political party, we're going to be looking into. And you can see at political party, it uses numbers to stand in for the different labels. Let's explore that a bit more. So I would click on in the political party row and in the values column, click right there on that cell, then click the little ... box. And this lets me know what are the different values for political party and what's the corresponding label there. It's important to know how to do this because in some of SPS output, instead of it telling you that there were several Republicans, several Democrats. It would say there are several 2s and several 3s. You'd be like, what's a 2? What's a 3? So you'll need to know how to come here and to be able to look that up. When you've done that, we can just click cancel because we want to change it. We were just looking at it. It says click to scroll to the right and we'll learn more about the different variables. So here we can see the scale of measurement for our variables. So we have several variables that are nominal. One of them here is ordinal, another nominal, and then scale. And those are the 3 different types of scales of measurement that SPS uses. Nominal, which just means categories. Ordinal, these are categories that you could rank. And finally, scale, these are numbers you could add, subtract, multiply, divide, calculate an average of. Okay, we're going to go back to data view. So again, along the bottom left, you'll see the tabs variable view and data view. You would click on the data view. We'll just click here for now. So that completed the first step. So now our second step, analyze the data, right? We've explored it. Let's analyze it. We'll take a look at descriptive statistics, charts, and tables, how to generate those so that you can then use it. So we'll go ahead and click continue. Now, this is a game. So, it says here, get descriptive statistics, and you'd have to know where to go to get those descriptive statistics. If you ever just blank, you can always just click anywhere you want, and your hints will decrease. So I'm going to click here. Now my hints went from 4 to 3, but I'm being informed, okay, if you want to get descriptive statistics, you click on the Analyze drop-down menu. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then continuing on to get our descriptive statistics, we'll click here where it says Descriptive Statistics, and then we'll choose Frequencies. And we're doing that because we're working with the nominal and ordinal. So this is definitely the way to go. This can also be useful for other analyses, but for nominal and ordinal, again, really good way. So we'll add students' sex. So we click on it and we move it to the right. One of my hints disappeared because we didn't have to click on it because it was already highlighted. Okay. Next, select political party. So now I do need to click on it and I move it over. Good. And then I need to find the variable importance of faith. So I'm going to scroll down. It lets me know I need to do that. Here's importance of faith. Click on it and move it on over. So good. I've got my 3 variables that I want to work with. You can see how it indicates that student sex and political party are both nominal with this little icon, and importance of faith is ordinal. So let's go ahead and include our descriptive statistics. We'll click on the statistics button here at the top right. And we're going to select our measures of central tendency. When you're working with nominal data, these are numbers, not numbers like you'd add, subtract, multiply, divide. These are numbers that are just used as names. Like if you see, a football player, and you're like, number 33, just caught the ball. It's just a name there. So when we're working with nominal data and we want to get an idea of what's typical, we're going to choose the mode. Remember that the mode is the most frequently occurring result. So it'll let us know which label was used the most. And that gives us an idea of what is typical. Then we're going to do this for our ordinal variable. So for ordinal, these are numbers, again, used as labels, but you can rank them from low to high. And in terms of measures of central tendency, the median is the middle value in a ranked data set. So the median, when working with ordinal data, is a way to determine what is typical. So we'll go ahead and click median. All right. Now, in terms of getting an idea of the amount of variability out there, for nominal data, is such as like student sex or political party, we just say, well, how many categories are being used? And that gives you an idea of the variability. For ordinal data, again, where we have categories that are ranked, to get an idea of the amount of variability, we'd say, well, looking at the whole data set, what was the minimum value and what was the maximum value? Then we're going to do this again, but we're going to do it for the middle 50%. Why are we doing it again? Well, the minimum maximum for the whole data set, that lets you know, like, what are the extremes, right? What's the very biggest, and what's the very smallest, right? But for the middle 50%, that kind of gives us like, well, how much variability is there just kind of like around the center or around the middle of the data, if you will. So to get that, we're going to click on quartiles. And we'll take a look at the 25th percentile and the 75th percentile. I'll go into that shortly. Okay, so we have all the statistics that we need. So at this point, we'll just click continue. Okay, so now that we have our statistics, let's go ahead and get our charts. So I'm going to click on the chart here to add a bar graph. And the type of chart, you can see there's lots of options. We're not going to select histograms. That's for scale data. And this is only for nominal and ordinal, that is categories. So for categories, a bar chart is a great way to go. And I'll have it report percentages. It kind of gives us a big picture view of, what percent made each of the different types of responses. And then we can click continue. You'll notice that SPSS has already placed a check in this box, display frequency table. So it's already going to give us a simple frequency table. And I'm going to also select APA style for that table. APA style just creates a more streamlined version of the frequency table given to you by SPSS. And with that, we're done setting this up. We can go ahead and click OK. Okay, we've explored the data set. Now is step 1. We have analyzed the data. Now is step 2. Now we're at step 3. We're going to go ahead and review our SPS output. We're going to use that information to write up our report. So this consists of reviewing the results and then a lot of copying and pasting. So we'll copy paste relevant items into the word processing document for the write-up. We're going to learn 3 different ways to copy paste. You don't always have all these options available. It depends upon if you're working on a computer or a mobile device. So we'll talk about keyboard shortcuts, the mouse right click, as well as the edit drop-down menu. So we'll start with our variable, our nominal variable, student sex. And remember at the very beginning of this, we were looking at an APA style report and it had a table for student sex as well as for political party. So we're going to go ahead and grab the table for each of those variables. So starting with student sex, we'll go ahead and take a look here, frequency tables, student sex. I'm going to click on that. Brings me to that output. And then here, this is what I want to copy. So I would use a right click on the mouse. I'll just click here to simulate that. And then when you right click on the mouse, you'll get this little menu. We'll choose copy. Now we're in our word processing document. It could be whichever word processing document you like to use. In this case, I'm showing you Google Docs. So we would right click to be able to paste it. So I'm going to right click and then I would choose paste. And then it's in, and we're back here now looking at our SPS output. So now we want to go to political party. So I could scroll down to it, it's just like right here, or I can just click political party on the left. So here's the second way you can copy paste. You can use Control-C if you're working with Windows, or Command-C with the Mac. I'll just click here to simulate that. Now it's copied. You come back into your word processing document, and then you can use Control-V for Windows or Command-V for the Mac, and that will paste it. And then we switch back to SPSS. So those are our 2 tables that we copied in. And then remember, for importance of faith in own life, that was a bar chart. So we're going to move from frequency tables down to bar charts, and we're going to click on importance of. That brings us to this table, and it's already highlighted because we clicked on it. So we're going to copy it. So the third way to do this is to just go to the edit drop-down menu and choose copy. And then back in your word processing document, you want to click where you want it to go and then use the edit drop-down menu and choose paste. And then switch back to SPSS. Finally, as you recall, there was that table that had a summary of all of our different statistics. That's under the statistics. That is to say, the statistics is under the frequencies here at the top. So I'll click on statistics. And it says click here to indicate copying the frequency table using either Control-C or Command-C. So we're just reviewing one of those 3 different ways to copy paste. You're a pro at it now, right? And then we'll click here to indicate using either Control-V or Command-V to paste it. Okay, at this point, we've got everything copied into this document we're going to need. This last table is really important because we're going to use it when we're doing our APA style write-up to look up the different statistics. And then, of course, the tables and the graphs are also important. We're going to include those in our write-up too. So click to scroll up to the top. There we go. So now we've done 3 of the 4 steps. We've explored, we've analyzed, and we set up a word processing document to be able to write our report. Now in step 4, we're going to see how to use the SPSS results for an APO style write-up. For the nominal variables, remember, measure of central tendency is communicate with the mode, and the measure of variability is the number of categories. For ordinal variables, which are categories that you can rank, our measure of central tendency is the median, and to convey the variability, we'll report the extremes, the minimum and the maximum, and we'll also kind of give you an idea of how much variability there is in the middle 50%, which wouldn't have any outliers. So for that middle 50%, we'll report the 25th and 75th percentiles. Let's keep going. All right, so it says click here to write up the nominal variable APA style report here. So specify the mode, the most frequently occurring category, and the number of categories as a measure of variability. So I'm going to click here and we're going to see what it looks like. You know, in real life, you get to type this in. Here we go. So it says the majority of the 90 behavioral statistics students interviewed in fall 2012 reported their sex as female, F equals 69, and that F is italicized, followed by male, and that F should be italicized, equals 20, with 1 response missing there. An italicized F equals 1. And the F equals, the number occurs within parentheses there, period at the very end. So we have a table where someone can just quickly glance at it. Under N is the frequency, under the percent then is the percentage, and then there's the write-up. And importantly, the write-up tells us, you know, who was surveyed. Behavioral statistics students. How many of them? 90. When did this take place? Fall 2012. All these are relevant pieces of information. In the behavioral sciences, we always want to know how current is this data. Okay, so having done that, we'll click here on our rectangle and scroll down. So now we're looking at political party. Again, we can see the frequency and the percentage. Let's see what that write-up looks like. So I'll click here on this golden rectangle, and here's our write-up. Most of the 90 behavioral statistics students interviewed in fall 2012, when asked about their political party, selected none, in parentheses italicized F equals 30, from the 5 options available. Other responses were Democrat, within parentheses italicized F equals 21, comma, Republican, within parentheses italicized F equals 20, comma, Independent, within parentheses italicized F equals 10, and other, within parentheses italicized F equals 7, period. All right, so again, we are learning who was interviewed, behavioral statistics students. How many? 90. When did that take place? So these are important pieces of information to put at the very beginning of your write-up. And then we have what is the most typical response. And so that was none, F equals 30, of the 5 options available. So again, that lets us know that there was 5 political parties reported. It gives us an idea of the variability. And then because there's, you know, not too many different categories, we're told what the frequency was for each of the categories. So, you know, if there's like 5 or so, 5, 6, or 7 or so, you know, categories or less, it's helpful to include that F. If we had something like 20 categories, we wouldn't do that. We would have just stopped here after saying what the mode was and the number of categories. So this is nice in indicating the frequency of the other categories if you have, you know, like 5, 6, 7 or less there. Okay, so now we'll take a look at the write-up for the ordinal variable, and this is a little trickier here. So it says click here to indicate looking up what each of the numbers in this table means. So this is our main statistics table, and you remember we copied. Here's importance of faith in own life, so that's that variable here. And it tells us the median is a 3, that the maximum is a 5, minimum is a 1, and the percentiles, 25th is a 1 and 75th is a 4.25. And we're not going to use these numbers in our write-up because no one's going to know what they mean. We may not even know what they mean, so we got to look that up. So remember at the beginning of this video, I showed you how you could look up the different values. So you would do that for our importance of faith in own life. And we can see that 1 is not religious, 2 is faith is slightly important, 3 is faith is somewhat important, 4 is faith is fairly important, and 5 is faith is very important. So when we do our write-up, we begin with like, well, what's after we indicate, you know, who was interviewed, how many of them, and when did it take place. Right after that, Then we want to convey, well, what was the typical response? And for an ordinal variable, that's going to be the median. So the median for importance, faith, and own life is a 3. And looking at our code book, if you will, here, a 3 means faith is somewhat important. So let's see what that looks like. We have, of the 90 behavioral statistics students interviewed in fall 2012, the typical view on faith, importance, and own life was faith is somewhat important. Okay, so now we want to also convey the variability in responses, right? So go from the minimum to the maximum, those two extremes there. So here's the minimum. It's a 1, and in our code book, 1 is not religious. So we continue this with saying the responses ranging from not religious. The maximum is a 5, which is faith is very important. So with responses ranging from not religious to faith is very important. Now we're going to conclude this by talking about the minimax for the middle 50% of the data. And so this is going to be going from the 25th percentile to 75th percentile, right? 75 minus 25 gets you 50. So that's the middle 50%. So let's keep this going here. So percentiles 25th is a 1. A 1 means not religious. So we say, and the middle 50% of responses ranging between not religious, and our 75th percentile is a 75. That's a 4.25, which we'll round, in this case rounding to 4. Look up a 4. Faith is very important. And so we conclude by saying the middle 50% of responses ranging between not religious to faith is fairly important. And that's it. So that's what our sample report looks like. That's what we will have created. We have our tables for our nominal variables and the APA style write-up for those nominal variables. And then we have the bar graph for our ordinal variable and the write-up. And of course, when you do it, you can decide alongside either your instructor or your boss, should that be a table or a graph, or, use best judgment. But something to help illustrate, to convey kind of big picture, right? Remember that the graph is really good for kind of like that big overview look, and the table is really good for precision, right? And then they can dive into reading your APA style write-up as well. Okay, so when you're done, if you're doing this within a Canvas course, within a Canvas quiz, you would click Next, and here's where you would type in the 4-digit passcode given by your instructor. So let's say it was, 3481, and then you click OK, and then that following completion code is what you would put into your Canvas quiz as the answer to that question to get credit for it. All right, take care.